another episode of Let's Eat Orlando. I am Amy Drew Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel and other places before that. And my co-host here is...
It's Biggie from Deli Fresh Threads. How's everyone doing today? Amy, Amy Drew, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk a little bit about sushi.
Okay.
Not in general, but Seito, which is, a million people's favorites in Baldwin Park. And I had not been there in quite some time because, as we discussed, I don't get to go back to a lot of the places I like that often because I'm like a shark. I can't stop swimming. I got to keep moving.
And a lot of that is also because of the fact that, like, when you have to write articles, how many articles are you supposed to write during the course of the week of new places and stuff like that? Like, what is it usually? Something
I write on average 4 minimum a week, I would say. And that doesn't count news.
Yeah. Like
breaking things. And it doesn't really count the larger, what they call enterprise reporting stories.
Got it.
So I write a lot, but let's look at it this way. 52 reviews a year. That's just reviews. That doesn't count anything else I do. That's one every week of the year. 52 calendar columns with a couple of exceptions, when they do the Spooky Awards or the Twinkly Awards or Matt Palm's theater preview, like everybody else gets a break when I do the foodies. But for the most part, a calendar column every week. It's a lot of stuff. This is really boring. You better edit this.
No, it's not boring. I think people need to understand this, though, because that means it's 52 of those that you're doing plus anything new that are topic wise, because that's one's review. And then one's also, if there's a theme or, a holiday or something like that.
The cooking section every week is on Thursday. It always has 2 pieces by me. One would be like the centerpiece, which could be a bigger recipe story. It could be about, one Chilean food or empanadas or, any grilled cheese. I don't know. It could be about anything.
Yeah. Peanut butter and jelly. It could be about any topic like that.
Really, it could be something that's tied into the news. It could be something that's tied into a food holiday or the season. It could be, an Easter recipe or a Hanukkah recipe, or it could be anything. But there is one plus a review. That's 2 of my stories a week. Then there's always a calendar column on Friday. And then there's other stuff during the week too.
So, and we'll go back so that way I can circle back to lead you back. You were talking about Seito Sushi and that you got to go there. And it's not one of those things you get to go back to often, back to a restaurant, some of the restaurants after you've eaten there, since you got to always eat somewhere new.
Well, the funny thing about it is that I had a friend coming to town and he wanted to have lunch and he was going to have his daughter with him and her boyfriend. But they had a thing to do. They were flying in, they were flying out.
I love how you don't want to name drop, and I'm not going to, but I love how you don't want to name drop who these people are. But
I did in the story. I did in the story because it's really not about them.
I understand that. But I think it's still pretty cool, and I think occasionally you may need to name drop on there. Especially if it's been written in a paper, and our listeners are listening. I think they want to kind of know who you're having lunch with.
Yeah, but by the time this airs, it will happen.
It will, so, correct.
This was the day that Phil Rosenthal from Somebody Feed Phil, he came back to town to do a book signing that everybody is now aware of because 600 people showed up.
Let's try this.
But he had to be there by a certain time. He was staying where he was staying. He had X amount of time. He said, we have to have lunch. So I said, okay, we'll have lunch. And then I was like, this will be easy. It'll be lunch. And then I realized that he wanted to have lunch late. And like every place that was convenient to where it needed to be convenient, close to where he was going. There was a lot of requirements. And while I was sitting here tossing it around, I was like, wait, that place is close. That place is, wait a minute. Didn't I just read that Seito opened back up for lunch? They'd be perfect. That's only like maybe 10, 15 minutes from where he's going to need to be. Let me see. And so it worked out and we went to lunch at Seito. And of course, I told them that we were coming because he was on a time constraint. He had a very specific amount of time to eat. So, and they were wonderful, of course, but it just made me think, no, they had only just reopened for lunch. They hadn't been open for lunch since before the pandemic. And I hadn't written about Seito, even though, Good Salt's been in the news and different. I hadn't personally written about Seito. pretty much in my entire time at the Sentinel.
Wow.
And certainly not since Hui Tin was the executive chef. He's been there for like 12 years though. So like the last time I wrote about them, he was probably like an assistant sous chef or something. It was like in the way back. But the point was that the lunch was incredible. And it made me think I should come back for dinner when, so I can just hang out, chill, and taste some of the dinner food. And so I went back for dinner. It was, again, it was such a good meal. I can't even. And so I was like, people are always signing up to Let's Eat Orlando and saying, I'm new in town. What's good for this? I just moved here. I'm moving here. I'm coming to the area. And I was like, you know what? Maybe in our circle, yours, mine, the foodies, people, everybody's like Seito. Everybody knows about Seito. But the real thing is we're all like kind of up our own butts. Like, no, people aren't like us. Not everybody is like us. It's not restaurants and food every 5 seconds with normal people. So I felt like there were a lot of people who could benefit, as could Seito, from them learning about this place.
Yeah, no, and I think that's something that is, I'm glad we're having this conversation for a few reasons. One, obviously, I like that we name drop a whole bunch of different restaurants, and that's what the idea of the show notes will be, so that people can go to them. But I also like the fact that I also kind of think it's kind of cool because people can kind of get a little bit of a better idea of what you go through, in the sense of like like, hey, how come she hasn't written about this, or how come she hasn't? And it's because like, hey, you're basically going and trying to eat different places. So sometimes it's not one of those things where it's always you can always kind of like, hey, I'm going to talk about this person. Oh, but you already talked about them about a year ago. Unless something's changed or something's new or something newsworthy is happening, you're basically constantly trying. And that's the beauty of, the paper.
If it fits, I mean, a lot of times people will fit, and there are news stories that need sources that of people who own restaurants, run bars, whatever. So I'm talking about a given place, but in a different context.
Yeah.
It's a news story about this, or a food story about that, and it's not the same.
Let's since you obviously had lunch and dinner at Seito, can you tell us what you I'm kind of curious, like if I haven't been there, what do you recommend? Like what's your like, oh man, like this is so good. Do you have anything that you like that you really enjoyed?
Yeah. I'll start with something that's been there for a while, but I had the pleasure of just looking at it. It's called Korean chirashi, which is like, I guess it was inspired, it's a raw fish and salad that they, toss with a nice dressing. And they serve it with miso soup and I think a little bit of rice and these sheets of nori, seaweed.
Okay.
And it is just, first of all, it's just beautiful. It just looks like treasure. It looks like the colors in the fish are just, it looks like jewels. And then, Phil was eating it and he said, he was like, I wish I could put everything in seaweed. I think he and I get along because we're both like so ridiculously enthusiastic when we taste something that we like. And that's kind of how I feel every time I eat something really good. And then when I came back for dinner, oh my God, the salt and pepper beef ribs were ridiculous. Like he fries them. So they like have a little crust on them and they're deep fried.
Yeah.
And they're incredible. They're,
What do they serve it with?
Like a hoisin sauce, and I don't really remember that much about the condiment because they were good with nothing.
Yeah.
You know me. I like sauces, but I'm more about like the dish. But wow, what an incredible dish. And he calls it his childhood dish because all of the flavors are pho inspired.
Nice.
From when his parents would make pho and they would boil the bones for a really long time and they would give him the bones when they took them out of the soup to gnaw on, and he would dunk them in all of the pho, like the hoisin sauce and the sriracha and that kind of, so that's what it was inspired by.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're
I love
delicious.
stuff like that. I almost sometimes wish restaurants had almost like a backstory so you can almost like see some of those things. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you look at a menu and you can kind of hear, like, see the backstory of the menu, like if you really wanted to, if you're looking at it, and you could be like, oh, here's the story of how this came out, or how this got on the menu. I always think that'd be kind of fun to do, like a QR code or something, so that way as you're waiting for them, maybe who knows, maybe a restaurant will do this, you can like scan the menu and be like, hey, find out more about how these dishes came to be.
It would be cool. On the one hand, sounds cool. On the other hand, it's like, wait, do I really want to look at my phone more? You know,
True.
am I eating by myself? Then
True.
maybe.
Yeah.
But if I'm eating with you, then I don't want to be staring at my phone.
No, I get that. No, I totally get that. But I do think that'd be kind of a fun thing to be able to just kind of to be able to watch, or even heck, even on social, as a social media content, to figure out why or how or what came up, because those are the best stories.
So other outstanding things there, the hamachi collar. I love the fish collar. If I see a collar on the menu, I usually order it. Outstanding. And there was a roll that we had called the Royale. It's like a $30 roll. So it's kind of mac, but it is a negitoro hosomaki, which is like more of a taller, slender roll.
Okay.
Is that like, and so it's kind of elegant with the, minced tuna and scallion, and then it has like a draped piece of chutoro tuna over it, and then caviar, and then gold, edible gold.
Okay, for $30, I could see that.
It
I would
it
expect those
looks
things.
badass, but it
Yeah,
is so good. It's that good. So that was like the money roll right there.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So, would you say that go to Seito? Would you say would be something for like if you're celebration, or even like for lunch? It's just good to go for lunch. If
Yes, and yes, and
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Just,
that's
and
what I thought.
you don't
Just good
have to
food.
go there. It's not like everything there is, a $30 roll. You don't have
Correct.
to go there. And they have lunch specials where you can actually get that collar as a lunchbox special. I can't remember what's in it, but that's available at lunch, which is like super decadent for lunch. I would go for the tossed chirashi, but it was just a fabulous experience. But moreover, what I would want to talk to, and
Yeah,
this is something I feel like you relate to, because people are like, but I know about that already.
yeah,
Like, and you're a businessman.
yeah,
So I know you appreciate your regular customers very, very much, but don't you want new ones?
yeah. I think there's like a so it's funny because I started thinking about this because sometimes you need, yes, I would think if I had to say, like, hey, we're like, I want to sell this many shirts, and how, like, I don't know, we'll use a basic example. If I had 5 shirts, if I wanted to sell 5 shirts to either 5 different people or one to one super fan, I definitely would want, obviously I would like some regulars to buy more new product or continue buying product, but I also want new people to come in and see me. So you obviously want a mix of your regulars, but then you also want those new people, because those new people, usually what happens is those new people are the ones that talk. A lot of times people won't go to like the place that they usually go to and then just rant it. I mean, I do, but they don't usually rant and rave about, oh, I went to so and so place. You know what I mean? Like, and had this. They don't usually do that. And unless you're a foodie and you're posting where you're eating all the time. So yeah, I definitely want the new customer to come. I think, and especially since they say it takes, like, it's the power of 7. They say sometimes that someone needs to see something 7 times or hear something 7 times before they actually will either think about trying it or trying it, unless you obviously, or unless someone else is kind of influencing them and telling them, hey, this is great, you should definitely do this. And they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I will do this.
I used to work for a magazine for the nightclub industry. And I remember one of the club owners that I interviewed said he calls it the rule. There's another rule. He called it the rule of 10, which
Okay.
is one person comes into your establishment. They're telling 10 people about it. So you better make sure they had a good time, because otherwise 10 people are going to hear that same complaint, so you want to make sure. And
I
so you get somebody who comes and buys a hat or a shirt, loves the packaging, loves the product.
yep.
They're going to tell 10 people, hey, and then they'll also wear your shirt, which is also nice, or whoever
That
they bought it for is going to wear
the,
your shirt.
that is definitely the key. The other part though is, and I will say, and I'd be very curious if you ever have restaurants talk to you about this, like you could have, like, it's amazing how there's that. It's very easy. The switch turns on very quickly. You have a bad experience, too long of a wait, regardless of what it is.
Oh,
Very
people are
quick,
brutal online.
very quick to go and, like, and destroy. But you have an amazing time. Have like, wow, like, every time I come here, it's amazing, and no one says anything.
Yeah,
It's like
no,
the
people,
weirdest thing.
yeah.
And it's so hard because they even say that sometimes, and I forget the statistical number of it is, but for every negative, you almost need like 2 to 3 times more positive to, like, it's almost like the negative always circumvents and it makes it. So yeah, I mean, I definitely would always rather have the new customer, the customer that always is ranting and raving. I mean, I can talk till I'm blue in the face, telling my customers, hey, post pictures of you wearing the shirt or you doing this. And if and majority of the time they probably won't. They won't do it. Which is the crazy part about it. Same thing when you're having an amazing meal. You want someone to take a picture of it and show it off and tag them and be like, hey, look at this amazing place I ate at. Check it out.
It's a walking advertisement. You know what I mean? Like in the case of the posting, yes. I remember one time I was wearing my Biggie bread cap. It was like 6 in the morning. I was like the first appointment at the car, at the mechanics to
Yeah.
get just like an oil change and everything. It was still dark out. And the guy who was my service manager, not into sandwiches. I mean, probably everybody's into sandwiches, but he is a hat guy. He loves ball caps. And he was like, where'd you get that hat? And I told him all about you. And by the time my car was done, he was like, dude, I ordered 2 of them. I got one for me and one for my nephew.
Yeah.
So it was just me wearing the hat. He wasn't even, he just liked the look of it. He had no idea what the logo was. He
Yep.
just liked it, wanted
Yep.
it.
No, and I think it's so important, and I think all those things play factors. And when you, especially like for restaurants, everything from the ambiance that you're going into, how it looks. I mean, there's a lot of things that you're dealing with. I don't even know how like chefs and restaurateurs like deal with that because they got to have their finger on the pulse on everything. Was there trash outside my place? Was it the inside of it when you go in? You know what I mean? Like everything,
It's so hard. I wish
everything.
people would, don't get me wrong. I think that people need to run their business very well. I don't want to make it, but like people are really like, I do feel like that, it's like you said, the hate gets more,
Always.
it gets more fuel, than
Yeah.
than the love.
I think, and that's always the difficult part is when you deal with that as a restaurant. And I also think the other part of it is, and we've talked about it on previous episodes when you brought up the whole idea of Hall of Fame, like sometimes you don't want to get overlooked either in the sense that you've been like in the Foodie Awards where you're like, hey, this place has been open forever and they've always been good. But then you tend to you sometimes kind of forget about them because there's so many new places always opening up and everything else. So it's always difficult. I'd be kind of curious, like, if you, in your world, like, do you have like a note section on your phone of like all new places you always want to check out or
I
try?
have
Or
notes on my phone. I have notes in a spiral notebook. I have a whiteboard at my office, dry erase, a giant dry erase board with a running list that I'm always adding to, always taking away from. And the sad part is there have been a couple of places in the years that I've worked here that have closed before I even got a chance to go.
yeah,
Because I just don't. Sometimes I think, oh, I'm going to be in Kissimmee. There's that place that I wanted to go, and I'll try and be strategic about it. But then all of a sudden, some news happens, and I have to write that. So all of a sudden, my trip to Kissimmee gets canceled. Oh, well, that place is going to have to wait until the next time I can either make a pointed trip or something else comes down there. I try to mix it up, though. I try to run around. I ran around the metro a little bit this weekend, so we'll be some.
all around. Do you ever go the route of saying I'm gonna do I'm gonna spend the day at this one place and eat at like 3 places, like in one like a different part of town or something
I
like that, or in
kind of did
Orlando?
that this weekend. I hit 2 places in one part of town and then one place in another. Um,
Okay.
one of them was a bust. It happens. You know, it happens. Actually,
When
maybe
you
set that up.
No, I want to. I kind of. I'm kind of curious about this, and
No,
you
because
don't.
people are
And
gonna be
we're
like, "What was the bust? What was the bust?"
no. There's no. We won't talk about the busts. But my
Yeah,
question is this:
it
when
wasn't
the
terrible or anything. I just wouldn't go out
yeah.
of my way to
Okay,
rep.
so then that's the thing. Like, there's obviously you have a land of demarcation of like, okay, where of like, okay, newsworthy for me to write about, and then or maybe not, and it's better for me not to write, or heck, even just you eating in general. Forget about the fact of would I recommend to a friend or not recommend to a friend? Because I mean, obviously you have more power than you have more influence than some, but in my case, like same thing. Like if I've eaten at a
I have
bad
a big
place,
megaphone. It's not even as big as other
correct.
people, as some other people's, but I have, I
Yeah,
do, I only want to use that for good.
as you should. Yeah,
I
and I'm the
only,
same way. I don't usually tend to tell people places I don't like to eat at. I'd rather tell you places that we want to eat at, which is kind of
exactly.
what our show is going to be about most of the time. We're never
Plenty of
going to
people
we'll
love
never
the
talk
places
about the
that
bad places.
yeah, plenty of people like the places that I may not have cared for that much,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and they'll keep going and they'll keep telling their friends, you
Yeah,
know.
no, I totally agree with that. Do you think that I'm trying to think of like when you're trying to figure out all the places that you're going to and doing. I mean, I just think after a while, like you're also got to be sometimes there's got to be times where like I'm not in the mood to eat this.
Oh
I want
God,
to eat something else.
I don't know. I
Or
have moments where I'm like, do I even have to eat?
oh
Like,
yeah, that's the other part.
I get food fatigue, believe it or not. It passes relatively quickly because I like to eat. But yeah, there are
Yeah.
some weeks where I'm just like, I just want to go make a shake. Like a protein shake or
I mean,
something.
and sometimes that's how you probably start your day. Be like, I'm going to start with this because I'm going to go be eating, or I'm going to have to eat something
Oh,
later on.
yes. I recently started just a few months ago with a calorie app that I track now more than I did in recent. And yes, I 100% plan
Yeah,
my
you kind of
day.
have to. I mean, I can only imagine with as much eating out now. And with that being said, I'm kind of curious because of the fact that you eat out so much. Does a lot of times those foods that you have, like obviously you're eating and you're taking pictures and you're doing things like that, do some of those then become leftovers that you then later on eat for
Yeah,
dinor or something like
sure.
that?
I
Because
don't
you're
believe
like,
in food
there's just so
waste.
much food, right?
100%. Yeah. I take my leftovers home. There's no way I'm not going to leave, because I try to watch that I don't eat too much
Yeah.
in one sitting. And people love their portions here. I laugh because at the Italian sandwich place, right?
Hmm.
In Italy, those sandwiches usually just have like a slice or two of prosciutto or something in them. But the couple who started it knew enough that they were like, Americans are going to want something bigger than that. We're not going to make it crazy because we want to keep it in the realm of what these sandwiches are, but they stuff the sandwiches with enough that it's still not humongous, but the sandwiches are all like $7, $8 with fresh baked bread and the meat sliced to order. And so unless you're somebody who just refuses to have a lunch that isn't 1,000 calories,
Yeah.
which don't forget, these sandwiches are still stuffed with cream and cheese and meat. Like there's a lot of
Where's
calories.
the sandwich? You didn't give us the name. What's the
Oh, well,
name of
because
the?
we talked about it already. Ispirazione.
We actually have not. We talked about it maybe briefly, but
Oh, I
for
thought
at
we talked
least
about it.
for no for this we've talked about it
Oh,
enough maybe offline.
oh, okay.
But yes.
Yes.
So this
This
Italian
place is in
restaurant
Ocoee, and they
in
make
Ocoee.
Italian sandwiches with tigelle, which is it's also called crescentine. It's a round bread, depending on where in Italy you're from. Both names are the same. They call it tigelle. They bake it right there. They're these beautiful little round breads, almost like pita-esque,
Okay.
because you slice it, it's pretty thin. You slice it and then you stuff it. And it's thin, it's a little crispy on the outside, a little chewy on the inside. It's not a lot of bread. And then they put the fillings in, which is sliced meats, burrata, different cheeses. They make house-made creams, little arugula, little sun-dried tomato, depending. Beautiful, beautiful sandwiches. Beautiful sandwiches.
That sounds delicious. It also sounds like it's, like you said, not so much where you're like stuffed. It's like hits the
You
spot.
could get two of them, but they
Yeah.
also have dessert. You might want to have
Yeah.
some,
Share the wealth. Yeah.
they make the cannoli, they make the tiramisu, which was great, by the way, really, really nice. And a big serving. Like it's definitely something that you should share. If you're going to get it, or don't eat it all at once and take some home.
Out of curiosity, what sandwich did you get? What was the meats in your sandwich?
I tasted 3.
Okay.
And I can't remember off the top of my head.
Is there one that you would, like, if I were to say, hey, I'm going there, what would you say? Like, go have, is there one you'd be like, Biggie, you'd enjoy this?
I love the pistachio cream. So anything that has that in it would be great. But really, it's all a different variation of like kind of the same things. They have ones with no meat and just cheese. And, they have, I don't know, there's probably like 12, 15 that are, they've pre-designed for you.
Yeah.
And you can just pick them and they're delicious. And it's funny because you could get 2, I guess, if you wanted to, and it would be like $14, which is, there's sandwiches that cost more than that.
Yeah.
For one.
Yeah.
And then you could try them. Because they're smaller and delicate. When I say they fit like this, you're not going to want to cut them. So if you're going to share them with people that you don't mind passing.
Share bites with. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. No, I love that.
They're really good, and they don't have French fries. No, they don't have potato chips. It's a very European, Italian style. They serve it the way they love it in Italy.
So, is there a side at all? Like, could I get like a pasta salad or a salad?
They have
with it,
like that you can get that are larger, which I think is cool, where you can kind of mix and match. Because basically everything, a good portion of the stuff that they're putting in there, it's almost like antipasti.
Yeah.
Like people, charcuterie board. And then you get your Italian grandpa and he's like, charcuterie, he's like, what? It's salami and olives.
Yeah. He's like, we're putting that in this bread is what we're doing for you.
So it's not like that. Eat the sandwiches. The bread is just excellent. And they also do a sweet version too, where you can get, like fresh strawberry preserves that they make in there,
that sounds
things
good.
like that. So you can do that. And that's also very traditional. They do that as well in Italy.
Are they obviously like, is it served like the bread warm, or is it everything kind of cold, just like the meats are sliced?
Is warm when you get it or when they get it, but it's very thin bread.
Yeah.
So it gets cool fast, but it's very, very fresh.
Nice.
It's not going to be cold. It's fresh. They're making it right there. It doesn't take very long to bake these things. They're little.
Yeah.
In fact, I watched a bunch of grandmas make them. After I learned about them, I watched some videos, of grandmas in Italy. They have like a stovetop version. I was like, oh, I want one of those. It's like kind of this metal press that you can put on your stove, and the heat goes up into the metal press, and you can make them right on the stovetop, like 6 at once, 5 or 6 at once. Boom. And then you spread like lardo in there, garlic, Parmesan. That's how they eat it there.
Oh, that's exactly how I would want to eat it. I could
piece
definitely,
of cheese.
Yeah, that's all I would eat. I don't even know if I'd put, I'd just be like, just give me the bread with all that stuff on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So go there, check that out. Sandwiches, you have to go.
I will give it a try. I will also, if you have not, obviously, like we talked about Seito's, make sure you definitely go check them out. You will definitely see all these in the show notes, all the different places that we talked about on all our episodes, and definitely make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends. Definitely
give us some feedback. We can take it.
Yeah,
please. You want to hear about
what you want to hear about, certain topics you want us to discuss, places you want us to, check out or eat, or maybe even a food topic. I always love to hear Amy Drew's perspective on some of these things, just because she sees, I kind of look at it as, even though I like going behind the veil, or I guess like kind of like the Wizard of Oz, going behind the curtain and hearing a little bit more of some of the things that you have to deal with, because I don't think a lot of people understand that part of it. And I want people to be able to appreciate it, because what you do is exactly what almost every major city, food columnist does and has to write about. And I think it's something that people have to understand and realize that it's a hard job, being the trying to share and give a different perspective for everyone to be able to enjoy different foods and meals.
You're very kind.
Well, that's our show. Amy, Drew, always a pleasure. And
You're my
definitely.
favorite. Next time I want to talk about maybe condiments or something.
Okay.
I want to get Biggie's take on, sandwich
I
philosophies.
want to talk about. Hey, I'm all about talking sandwich philosophy. I'm also interested in. I would be interested in talking about different areas of food construction or weird food combos. I have a
What?
friend that. I have a friend of mine who does like a Instagram reels, and we'll talk about it. I'll send you some so we can kind of chat, because some of the interesting flavor profiles that she does, because for her listeners send her, or her followers send her stuff, and I'm always intrigued by, like, what do you think matches and doesn't match. So we should definitely talk about that as well.
I would love that.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, that's our show. Thank you so much for everyone for checking us out. Definitely subscribe, and we'll talk to you next week.
Later.
Bye.